Shiver Me Nightly.
Welcome, listeners, to Shiver Me Nightly, where the night hums with secrets and every tale drags you into the heart of the unknown. If you're new to our chilling corner, prepare for stories that twist reality into nightmares you can't shake. And to our loyal fans, you're back for more. Grab your headphones, dim the lights, and let the void pull you in. Tonight, we're heading to the cornfields of Yellowwood, Indiana, where Daryl Haskins faces a darkness that knows his name. Ready to hear the echo? Let's dive into the spiral. Introduction. In the endless cornfields of Yellowwood, Indiana, the land holds secrets older than the soil itself. For Daryl Haskins, a farmer tethered to his roots, life was a steady rhythm of planting and harvest, until his wife vanished, leaving behind a trail of impossible photographs and a hum that whispers his name. As mirrors crack, shadows twist, and the fields turn against him, Daryl steps into a nightmare where reflections lie, and the void beckons. Welcome to a story where every echo hides a truth you might not want to hear. Step into the spiral, but don't expect to come back unchanged. My name's Daryl Haskins, 47 years old, a farmer in Yellowwood, Indiana. I've spent my life working these cornfields, same as my father, his father, and 3 generations before them. The land's in my blood, its rhythms as familiar as my own heartbeat. Dawn breaks, you plant. Dusk falls, you rest. The corn sways under the stars, whispering secrets I never thought to question. This farm, with its creaking barn and weathered farmhouse, was my world, a world I shared with Emma, my wife of 20 years. She was the heart of it, her laughter filling the quiet, her hands steady as we worked side by side. That was my life, steady and sure, until 3 weeks ago, when Emma disappeared. It was a Tuesday, unremarkable at first. Emma had driven into town for groceries, her old red pickup rattling down the county road, kicking up dust in the late summer heat. She'd promised to pick up coffee, the good kind I liked, and maybe some of those lemon cookies she always teased me about. She never came back. I found her truck abandoned by the roadside, a mile from home, keys dangling in the ignition, her purse untouched on the passenger seat. Her phone was there too, battery dead, no calls or texts to explain where she'd gone. The sheriff, a tired man named Hargrove, called it a runaway, said maybe she'd needed a break from farm life. I told him that was nonsense. Emma and I weren't perfect, money was tight, the farm always a gamble, but we were solid. She'd never leave without a word, not her. I searched the fields myself, my boots sinking into the soft earth, calling her name until my throat burned. The corn seemed to mock me, its rustling louder than my shouts, like it was swallowing her name. Days turned to weeks, and still no sign of her. The town whispered, some said she'd run off with a stranger, others that she'd wandered into Yellowwood State Forest and gotten lost. Old Mrs. Carver at the general store swore Emma had been acting strange, quieter than usual, but I dismissed it as gossip. The silence in our farmhouse grew heavier each night. I'd sit at the kitchen table, staring at Emma's empty chair, the clock ticking like a countdown. I'd replay our last moments, her kissing my cheek before she left, her teasing me about my muddy boots. Those memories were all I had, and they were slipping away like sand through my fingers. Then I found the Polaroid. It was tucked under the porch steps, half buried in the dirt, as if someone had slipped it there in the dark. The photo showed Emma standing in our cornfield, her face pale, eyes wide with terror, mouth open in a silent scream. Red thread was knotted around the photo's edges, tight as a noose, the kind of thread you'd use for stitching wounds, not crafts. I'd never seen that picture before, and we didn't own a Polaroid camera. My hands shook as I held it, the image blurring through tears. In the background, at the edge of the field, was a faint spiral etched in the dirt, glowing blue like moonlight trapped in the earth. It wasn't a mark I'd ever seen on our land, and I'd walked every inch of these fields since I was a boy. I drove to the field's western edge, where the corn grew thickest, the stalks towering over me like a green labyrinth. The air was heavy, the summer heat replaced by a chill that didn't belong. There, hidden among the stalks, was a clearing I'd never seen before, maybe 30 feet across, the ground bare except for a spiral carved into the dirt, just like in the photo. Its edges glowed faintly blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. The stars above seemed dimmer, as if the clearing swallowed their light. The air felt wrong, too still, too cold, like standing in a room with no exit. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, but the screen glitched, flickering with static. When it cleared, it showed my face instead of the clearing, red thread looped around my neck, my eyes black voids. I dropped the phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd burst. A low hum rose from the earth, vibrating in my chest, like a choir chanting in a language I couldn't understand. I went back to the farmhouse, locking every door and window, though I knew it wouldn't help. Sleep wouldn't come, so I sat with my shotgun across my lap, the Polaroid on the table. I studied it for hours, searching for clues, but all I saw was Emma's fear and that unnatural spiral. I thought of our life together, building this farm, the late nights planning our future, the quiet moments when we'd sit on the porch, her head on my shoulder, watching the stars. Now, those stars felt like eyes, watching me back. Around midnight, I heard her voice, Emma's voice, calling my name from the field. It was faint but unmistakable, laced with fear. "Daryl, help me!" I grabbed the shotgun and ran outside, the corn parting like a curtain, the stalks brushing my arms like cold fingers. The clearing was empty, but the spiral glowed brighter now, its blue light casting shadows that twisted like antlers across the ground. Another Polaroid lay at its edge, showing me holding the first one, the red thread tighter around my neck. I burned it in a panic, the flames licking the paper, but the ashes reformed on the ground, the image untouched, as if the fire had no power here. The next day, I barely left the house, my mind racing. I kept the curtains drawn, avoiding mirrors, but the hum followed me, seeping into the walls. I tried calling Hargrove, but he brushed me off, saying I was grieving, seeing things. I wanted to scream that this wasn't grief, this was something else, something wrong. Desperate for answers, I turned to the internet, digging through forums I'd never heard of. On a dark website called Echovale, I found a post by someone named Camden Holt, a detective from Sacramento. He wrote about a killer called Naira Ellis, dubbed the California Ripper, who left Polaroids with red thread at her crime scenes. Each victim was found near a spiral carved into the ground or walls, glowing faintly, tied to disappearances across the country. Camden's notes mentioned a faceless revenant, a figure seen in mirrors, tall, in a black coat, wearing a white mask with no eyes or mouth, its head tilted as if listening. The description sent a chill down my spine, colder than the clearing's air. He said Naira was calling the void through these spirals, using mirrors as gateways, and those marked by her Polaroids were never seen again. That night, I saw it. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, avoiding my reflection, when the mirror flickered like a dying TV. My face vanished, replaced by a tall, shadowed figure in a black coat. Its mask was smooth, featureless, tilting slightly as if studying me. The air grew heavy, the hum from the field louder now, echoing in my skull like a drumbeat. The mirror cracked, the fracture forming a spiral that pulsed with blue light. In the shards, my reflection wasn't mine, it was a woman with mischievous eyes and a smirk, holding a Polaroid. I knew her name without being told, Naira Ellis. Her eyes glinted with something ancient, something hungry, and her lips mouthed my name, silent but clear. I stumbled back, my toothbrush clattering into the sink. I smashed the mirror with a towel rack, the glass shattering across the floor, but the shards kept showing her face, her smirk unchanging, her eyes locked on mine. The field started changing after that. Corn stalks twisted into unnatural spirals, their tips curling like claws reaching for the sky. At night, shadows moved through the rows, their shapes jagged like antlers scraping the stars. I found more Polaroids, under my pillow, taped to the fridge, slipped into my work boots, each showing Emma closer to the spiral, her face fading, her eyes blackening. One showed her standing in the clearing, her teeth carved with tiny spirals, her expression blank, like she was no longer herself. Another showed me, standing beside her, my own eyes darkening, red thread around my wrist. I stopped sleeping, afraid to close my eyes. The hum grew louder, a chorus of voices chanting words I couldn't understand, like a prayer to something I didn't want to meet. I'd wake to find new cracks in every reflective surface, windows, the TV screen, even the polished kettle, all forming spirals, as if the house itself was turning against me. I started seeing Emma in my dreams, but not the Emma I knew. She stood in the clearing, her skin pale as bone, her eyes black voids, her voice layered with the hum. "Daryl, come home," she'd say, her words shaking the ground. I'd wake gasping, my heart racing, the Polaroid from the porch clutched in my hand. I tried to leave the farm, to drive to town, but the truck wouldn't start, its battery drained despite being fine the day before. I walked the fields instead, hoping to find answers, but the corn seemed to shift around me, the rows leading me back to the clearing no matter which way I turned. Each visit, the spiral was deeper, the hum louder, the air colder. I found more Polaroids scattered in the dirt, Emma, me, strangers, all with red thread, all tied to that glowing spiral. I posted on EchoVale, my hands shaking as I typed. I described the Polaroids, the clearing, the hum, the figure in the mirror. Camden replied within hours, his message blunt, "You're marked. Get to Grinstead, Indiana. We're gathering survivors. Bring the Polaroids." He included coordinates for a meetup, a place where others had seen the spirals, the Revenant, Naira. I didn't want to leave the farm, it was all I had left of Emma, but staying felt like waiting to die. I spent days preparing, packing a bag, checking the shotgun, avoiding mirrors. I found an old journal of my father's in the attic, its pages yellowed, filled with notes about the land. One entry, dated 30 years ago, mentioned a blue glow in the fields, a hum that kept him awake. He dismissed it as a bad season, but reading it now, I wondered if this had happened before, if the land itself was cursed. The town wasn't much help. I went to the general store, hoping Mrs. Carver might know something, but she just shook her head, muttering about bad omens. A few locals avoided my eyes, like they knew more than they were saying. I even tracked down an old friend of Emma's, Clara, who lived on the edge of town. She said Emma had been distant the week before she vanished, talking about strange dreams, mirrors showing wrong faces. Clara thought it was stress, but her voice shook when she mentioned a spiral she'd seen scratched into Emma's truck door. I checked the truck again, no spiral, but the paint was scratched, like something had been erased. I went back to the clearing one last time, driven by a need to face whatever was taking Emma. The spiral was deeper now, a pit that seemed to stretch into the earth's core, its edges pulsing with blue light that burned my eyes. The air was thick, like breathing molasses, and the hum was deafening, vibrating through my bones. Emma stood at the pit's edge, but she wasn't my Emma. Her eyes were black voids, her teeth carved with spirals, her skin pale as moonlight. She whispered my name, her voice layered with the hum, shaking the ground beneath me. "Daryl, join us." I raised the shotgun, tears streaming down my face, and fired. The blast echoed, but she dissolved into static, the air crackling like a broken radio. The faceless revenant appeared then, not in a mirror but in the air itself, its blank mask inches from my face, tilting as if curious. Its presence was a weight, pressing against my mind, promising answers if I'd just step into the spiral. A final Polaroid fell at my feet, showing me standing in the pit, red thread around my wrist, my own eyes black. I ran, the hum chasing me through the corn, the stalks closing in like a trap. The field seemed alive, the rows shifting to block my path, the shadows stretching longer, their antler-like shapes clawing at the sky. I stumbled back to the farmhouse, grabbing my bag and the Polaroids, and fixed the truck with a spare battery from the barn. I'm in it now, driving to Grinstead, the Polaroid burning a hole in my pocket. The rearview mirror keeps cracking, and every time I glance at it, I see her, Naira, smirking, her eyes glinting with malice. The road ahead is dark, the cornfields endless, stretching into the night like a sea of whispers. Camden's waiting, and maybe he knows how to fight this. The hum's still in my head, a constant drone that promises no peace. Nyra's out there, weaving her spirals, and the Revenant's watching, its blank face etched in every shadow. I don't know if I'll make it to Grinstead. The Polaroid feels heavier now, like it's pulling me back to the field. Emma's voice still calls, faint but persistent, echoing through the hum. Part of me wants to turn around, to step into the spiral and find her, to end this nightmare one way or another. But I keep driving, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turn white. The void's hungry, and I'm not ready to feed it yet. I think of Emma's laugh, her hand in mine, the life we built in these fields. If there's a chance she's still out there, I have to keep going. The road stretches on, the hum grows louder, and the stars above flicker like they're fading. I've lived my life by the land, but now it's turning against me, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to fight it. The farm wasn't always like this. When I was a kid, it was a place of warmth, of hard work and quiet joys. My father taught me to read the soil, to know when the rains would come, to trust the cycles of the earth. But he also told stories, old tales of lights in the fields, of travelers who vanished when the corn grew tall. I thought they were just stories, meant to scare a boy into staying close to home. Now, I wonder if he saw something, if he heard the hum, if he hid it to protect us. The journal I found mentioned a night he saw a figure in the fields, tall and faceless, but he never wrote about it again. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he should have been. Emma and I built a life here, despite the challenges. The farm was never easy, droughts, pests, market prices that kept us on edge. But we faced it together. She'd stand with me in the fields, her hands calloused from work, her smile brighter than the sun. We dreamed of expanding the farm, maybe starting a family, though the years slipped by without kids. She never complained, but I saw the longing in her eyes sometimes, when she watched the neighbors' children play. I wonder now if she sensed something, if the land was whispering to her before it took her. The last week, she'd been quieter, her eyes darting to the fields at night, her sleep broken by dreams she wouldn't share. I should have pressed her, should have listened. Maybe I could have stopped this. The Polaroids keep coming, even now, as I drive. I found one on the passenger seat an hour ago, showing me in the clearing, the spiral glowing under my feet. My face is wrong, pale, eyes black, red thread tied around my neck. I threw it out the window, but another appeared in my jacket pocket, identical. The hum's louder now, in my head, in the engine's rumble, in the wind against the truck. I've stopped looking in the mirrors, but I feel Nyra's eyes, her smirk, her presence pressing against me. The Revenant's there too, its blank mask waiting in every shadow, every glint of moonlight. I don't know what they want, but I know I'm marked, just like Camden said. Grinstead still hours away, and the road feels like it's stretching, the miles growing longer. The cornfields don't end, they line the highway, their spirals glowing faintly in the dark, calling me back. I think of Emma, of the life we had, of the promises we made. I think of the clearing, the pit, the hum that knows my name. I don't know if I'll find answers in Grinstead, or if I'm driving toward the void. But I keep going, because stopping means giving up on her, on us. The shotgun's on the seat beside me, the Polaroids in my pocket, and the hums in my bones. Nyra's out there, weaving her web, and the Revenant's watching, waiting for me to fall. Daryl Haskins drives toward Grinstead, chasing a flicker of hope in a world unraveling at the seams. The spirals linger, carved in earth and memory, tying him to a truth that hums in the dark. Nyra Ellis and her faceless Revenant wait, their game far from over. Will Daryl find answers, or will the void claim him as it did Emma? The echo never sleeps, and neither will you after this tale. Keep your eyes on the shadows, listeners, and beware the next mirror you pass. That was a haunting journey through Yellowwood's cursed fields, listeners. If Daryl's story left you clutching your headphones, heart pounding, we've got more nightmares waiting to unfold. Loved this episode? Please subscribe to Shiver Me Nightly for more tales that'll keep you up long after the stars fade. Drop a comment below. Have you seen a spiral in your reflection or heard a hum in the dark? Share your thoughts, and stay tuned for the next echo. Until then, keep the lights on, and don't trust the mirrors.